Good afternoon, everyone. We're just going to hold on for another minute or so, just to let it get to 12:30 before we kick off.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so those on the webinar, could you just scroll down to the bottom of the screen and just hit the raise hand button just to confirm you can actually hear me? Excellent. I can see that you can hear me. Okay, so we might make a start. So welcome to Perfect Paul's webinar. I hope you all have some lunch with you and sitting comfortably. So today we're going to cover how to demonstrate value and communicate effectively with conveyancing clients. Just before I do the introductions, you can actually chat to us in real time. So if you want to send a question, just type that into the chat function. And what we'll probably do is at the end of the webinar, we'll get through as many of the questions as we can. For those that we can't get to, what we'll do is answer those ones individually afterwards. Okay, so just to introduce myself, I'm Richard Jones. I look after Perfect Portal in Australia. And today I'm joined by Garth Brown. Now, a number of you will already know Garth, but for those that don't, so Garth's been running his own successful conveyancing practice for over 19 years now. He's also published numerous legal publications. He's a consultant, and he also is very prominent in relation to running these kind of webinars. He's also won 3 prestigious awards from the AIC New South Wales for professionalism, and also LexisNexis and Jander's Dean Technology Award back in 2018. So I'd just like to welcome you to Garth, and I'm just going to click onto the next slide here. And Garth will kick off by taking you through some of the key learning objectives for today. Over to you, Garth.
Thanks, Richard, and appreciate all those who have tuned in to this topic that's not talked about a lot, and it's created a lot of interest. And what we're going to do today, we're going to look at the subject, obviously, of conveyancing, but from the client perspective, what they know about conveyancing, because that'll help us to formulate a strategy to demonstrate value. Then we'll look at what actually demonstrating value is. So what the key is to educating the client about conveyancing. What issues, not only in the contract, but outside of the contract, they don't know about. So we talk about how we can demonstrate that. And then we'll have a talk about how technology can be used to demonstrate value and build client relationships. So we'll have a demonstration from Perfect Portal and a very innovative app where you can communicate with your clients with key messages at key pivotal points during the conveyancing stages of what to expect next. So it's a really good little app that you can also have branded with your firm's details on there, and a client can download from the App Store or the Google Play, so that you can really not only demonstrate technology backup as well, where you can communicate well with clients. So the next one here is the next slide. So from the client's perspective about conveyancing, so normal average Joe client rings up and inquires about your service about conveyancing. But don't forget, a client really only deals with conveyancing, the average client, maybe 3 or 4 times during their lifetime, maybe even less. So if we put ourselves in the shoes of a vendor or purchaser, do you think that they really understand or know what you do behind the scenes? What risks, what issues are disclosed or not disclosed in the contract? Do they really understand much about that? If there are issues related to vendor disclosure, title defects, or quality title defects, how and what does a conveyancer do to look out for a client? Now, a client would have no idea of even what a title defect is, or vendor disclosure or quality of title defect. So you really need to keep that in mind when you're talking to a novice that brings up a potential client. And really, I have to say that most vendors and purchasers have no idea of what you do and what you actually look out for to mitigate risks even to the client they don't even understand or even know about. So that's a really key point to keep in mind when dealing with clients that bring up. Having that mindset, obviously understanding what your client's coming from. I know with different types, for example, when I used to play football, we used to always analyse opposition teams, and we used to look at their strengths and weaknesses, what we know about them, and how that we can win the game. And this is the sort of thing we need to do when it comes to conveyancing clients, put ourselves in their shoes and really understand that they don't know what we do behind the scenes. So really, this is the first point that comes with conveyancing clients. And some clients have told me, and I've had this happen a couple of times over the years, that they're not qualified in the area of conveyancing. They've never spent any time experiencing conveyancing, and they say, oh, well, I've got a simple conveyance for you. Now, this is a client telling the practitioner. It's a bit like me telling a brain surgeon how to do their job. It's just a simple operation. So we don't want to work with everyone who contacts us, but we need to weed out who to work for. And we need to be careful how we use our time and who we use our time with, because it will affect our happiness in our practice. We'll go to our next our slide then. Thanks, Richard.
Hey, Garth, just a couple of questions came in. Can you maybe get a little bit closer to the mic if possible? Thank you.
Yes, is that better?
Yeah, that's better, I think.
All right. So our next slide there is, does a client really know? Well, in most instances, they don't really know what a conveyancer does. And they just think it's a paper shuffle, ticking boxes, signing some documents, paying some money, and they generally value a real estate agent and his opinion more than you. Now, it's all about developing respect, attracting and working with clients that value your expertise. They know there is so much more to do, the procedures, the policies, and the knowledge. And that takes years to build that up. So does a client really know? In most cases, they don't. What you do behind the scenes there with your technology, with your knowledge, with all the exams and all the different situations you've had to deal with conveyancing, most clients do not know what you do. So I think keeping that really in mind when we come to demonstrating value is a key. So we'll go to our next slide. So how much do you charge? Well, I can tell you now, any client that rings up and then their first sentence is, how much do you charge? I probably won't be working with. But this really comes into play when clients do not understand what you do. And if you fall into this trap of giving a price and they'll just auction you off to the lowest bidder. And it's very demoralizing as a practitioner. So you've really got to have a strategy to combat this ignorance and treating the most important player in the conveyance with contempt, which is us as conveyancers or lawyers when it comes to property work. Now, some clients even think that if there is even an issue, well, conveyancers and lawyers are all the same, I'll just sue, which I've had someone tell me that once, but I told them we can't work for them. So there's a lot of time and money involved to rob us, of all of us, in this of joy in this area. So again, be careful who you work with. Your happiness is at stake. So try and overcome or combat this ignorance of someone who rings up and doesn't understand what you do. So we'll go to our next slide. So demonstrating value. So what does that really mean? Demonstrating value. Well, conveyancing is really a knowledge-based profession. It's based upon many years of practical experience and technological change that's happened so rapidly in our profession the last 3 or 4 years, and also to studies from recognised institutions. So that's what it's about. It's a knowledge-based profession, and it differs across the industry. Now, knowledge and experience is the way to differentiate yourself from other practitioners, is to carry out for a purchaser or a vendor. So if someone rings up and says along the lines, I want to understand more about what you do, you want to have, I'm going to auction, or I'm thinking of offering on this property. The first thing I would really highly recommend is to charge a nominal amount to conduct a paid purchaser contract review, either for an auction or for a private treaty. That is the key when it comes to demonstrating knowledge. So you've got to be paid for your time that you go through this contract for the client. And I see it so often across the industry that people do free contract reviews. That's just a race to the bottom. It also opens up a stream of income, because you feel better about yourself because you're offering value, you're being paid for, and it's another stream of income that's coming in. If they don't win at auction or they don't get the private treaty sale, you feel better about yourself because you're being paid for and you feel respected. Now, a commonality when it comes to a vendor, someone who's thinking of selling their home, they'll ring up and try and get the cheapest price that they can so they can get more money at the end, basically, more equity. They don't care what they pay an agent. So what I do there is I have a set of questions I go through, and I conduct a vendor telephone interview, which they also pay a nominal fee to do that, so that I can demonstrate value and that my time is valuable and I'm paid for what I do. I feel good about my work and I feel respected. So that's a real key point to take home from our webinar today. And so after being paid that amount, then you, as a professional, develop a detailed report as to what you'll cover, what issues outside the printed contract or in writing, and what issues are contained that are disclosed in the contract, and compare that to the cash flows that are happening within the conveyance. Like, what is the purchase price of the property? If it's a purchase, the stamp duty and the outgoings for council, water and strata, and then outline your fee from there after a detailed report of what you'll cover. Now, if it's a sale of a property, what the sale price was, what the agent's fees are, plus marketing, what the outgoings are for council, water and strata, and then what your fee is. So again, that reinforces the value that you bring to the table, because generally you're the lowest fee there, but you want to keep it as high as you can. So there's some good points to take away from the webinar. Now, what issues should we, or points that we should address in a report, say for a vendor or a purchaser? Well, in a detailed report, you could explain about the settlement date, that's the contract date. Generally, that the purchaser will have a special condition, the vendor will have a special condition in the contract that says if you don't settle on that contract settlement date, the vendor can issue a notice to complete, which gives you 14 days to complete. And if you'll charge penalty interest per day, and if you don't settle on that notice to complete date, then you can be served a termination notice, and your deposit can be forfeited to the vendor, who can sell to another purchaser, and they can keep your deposit and sue you for any loss on resale. Now again, that's demonstrating in your detailed report what happens if you don't settle on time to a purchaser. So we get away from comparing this how much do you charge sort of business. It's demonstrating your knowledge. Another way you can look at is look at the title. Are there any easements registered or covenants on title? If they are, what do they mean? Is it going to affect what the purchaser could do? Can they be removed? Maybe a little bit of commentary or discussion around those issues when it comes to reviewing a purchaser contract. Now, a big issue that's coming through at the moment is, and it's been for a couple of years now, is meth labs. You know, has the property been rented before? If so, is there any traces of usage of meth or ice in the house? Maybe it's a good idea to have a meth test, because once that gets into the timber and the into the plasterwork, that'll slowly emit fumes that will affect the health of those who are living in the home, whether it's smoking or whether the previous people were making ice in the home. So these are the sort of things that are not even in the contract that I think you need to really clearly spell out so that people feel value from what they're paying for you to review the contract. And most clients have no idea of those issues. Property stigmatisation. Has there been any rapes, murders or demonic activity? Is another good way to keep in mind when it comes to addressing different issues in a contract review. What happens if, are all the structures council approved? What happens if they're not? Maybe there's some commentary there to discuss in a report. Is a survey available if you're acting for a vendor to put into a contract? Why is it a good idea to include? Is a building certificate available to include in the contract? Why change the locks and keys after settlement? That's not addressed in the contract. And most purchasers and vendors have no idea of what could happen. They just want to settle and get into the home. But previous owners or tenants can come back and clean the house out if they're using the same keys and locks. So do you have a referral to refer someone to in the area, a locksmith, to handle that for them? Why is it a good idea to effect house insurance before settlement? Can you find an insurer that will cover an equitable interest as well as the legal interest if you're a purchaser? Does the vendor have enough insurance coverage? So these are the sort of questions that you could include and then answered in your paid purchaser or vendor report that's demonstrating value. Are there any squatters at the property? Could they put any claims in to claim for the title? Any sleeping or proposed development applications that could affect the views and light from surrounding properties? There's some excellent products through InfoTrack where you can do a check on whether there's been any DAs that have come through. So again, that's another issue or item of report you could put into your report. Is the property in a heritage sensitive area? Okay, it might be listed in the local register, but what if it's listed on the state heritage restrictions or the state heritage register? What rights does that give to me if it's not disclosed in the contract? Is there an environmentally sensitive area where the front, where rows and blocks of homes can't be renovated or have particular types of colours that they need to use if they want to renovate the home? Any contaminated land or underground fuel tanks? See, these are the things that are outside of the contract that I think a purchaser or a vendor would really understand through your demonstration of value, that there's no way that I can just ring up and get a price to be auctioned off to the lowest bidder. Any large special levies? What's unit entitlement? What does that mean when it comes to a strata unit? So these are just some suggested things that you could include in a detailed contract pre-examination review, or even a vendor telephone interview when you're talking to a client. So if someone rings up to you and says, oh, I don't want to pay this nominal fee, I don't want a contract review, you don't want to work with someone like that. That's the bottom line. Your time is valuable. And I'll tell you what, the clients that you do attract will easily make up for those that have been pushed off elsewhere. Now, as I say, with a vendor client, I've got 30 questions. I interview the client on the telephone. It's paid up front before I start the interview. And it helps me to understand their needs a lot better and explain the value I bring to the table. So the key is to demonstrate value when someone inquires about what you do and the knowledge and experience you possess via a furnished paid report. Now, whether that's for a vendor or a purchaser. And it's something that's been lacking, I feel, in the industry for a long period of time. So don't do what others are doing. Do what others aren't doing. Be different. Now, some clients won't like your process. They just want a quick quote and quick moving. Well, stick to the process. That's what I would say. Stick to this process and push these types of clients elsewhere. You don't want them in your life. Pick and choose who you work for and you spend your time with, because if they don't respect you, they won't respect the work that you do, and they're more likely to claim against you with a PI claim. So to recap, once you receive a lead for work, go through the above procedure of a paid demonstration of value and look at a detailed report outlining what issues from the contract, how to handle them, what you will charge in comparison to the cash flows for stamp duty or agent's fees, outgoings, price of the property, etc. So keep all that in that report, and it makes the client realise, hey, this is very good value, this knowledge-based professional that brings to the table. So we'll go to our next slide. So I think it gets back to what mindset do you require to establish value? Well, you need to value what you do. You are a valuable knowledge source, and I think we take that for granted at times. We think, oh, you know, what they're charging down the road, we've got to match it and all this sort of thing. This is really a race to the bottom. You've got to value who you are and you've got to be different. You mitigate risks and you reduce stress through your experience and use of conveyancing technology, which we'll have Richard demonstrate a little bit later on. It's an excellent little app where you can download from Perfect Portal, and it will send out key messages and reminders at key stages of the conveyance, and you can put your own branding on that. And with that good communication of technology from the app and demonstrating value, that's how you win the game of conveyancing. It's really how you go about it, sticking to the process. And as you demonstrate, clients are educated on what you do, they respect you, and then your confidence will grow and you ask for what you want rather than worry what someone down the road is charging. So once you've established this trust and agreement for your consulting fees, and you charge what you want, and it's reinforced through a professional fee agreement. So really all that contract review that you've been paid for goes into a professionally branded fee agreement from Perfect Portal, and it's transparent, and really all the hard work's completed. It's transparency. Now the fee can be established because you know of what you're getting into, and the client understands more about what you do. And it gives you confidence to ask for what you want, which is good fees. Be transparent, demonstrate value, and be confident about what you do, and stick to this suggestive process that I'm going through this morning. And use people like Perfect Portal to complement what you're doing. Inquire, ask them how they can help you with their business. So we'll go to our next slide. So what we've been building up here is when you learn your worth and you have a good process in place to follow, you will stop giving people discounts. So I think that's important. Look at the line there. He's in charge and he's the man, and he's the source of knowledge and strength and power. So don't give people discounts. Go down that process I've suggested and you'll do better in what you're doing. We'll go to our next slide. So, so as it says there, when it comes to communicating with clients, not only demonstrating through emails your value, but I think it's important too to have phone backup, being able to support your clients through telephone calls to see how they're going. Is there anything else that's missing? Is there any hardship? Is there some way I can help you? Or I've got something there that something's coming up. This is what you need to do. And this is really what builds trust now. You've demonstrated value, they've agreed to your fees, you've been communicating through technology, and then it's not just emailing the client all the time, but I think it's a phone conversation at a time. Builds trust. It's like putting money into the bank. It keeps building up the balance all the time as you go through the conveyance. So that's a thought there. You don't change culture through emails and memos. Pick up the phone and develop a relationship, or have a one-on-one face-to-face conversation, depending on how you run your business. So we'll go to the next slide. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so be yourself, authentic when dealing with subsequent telephone calls. Put yourself in the client's shoes, and use a mixture of technologies and treat the conveyance as if it were your own. So particularly when it comes to vendor funds, treat those vendor funds as your own. When it comes to those BSB and account numbers, don't email anything. Go through those a couple of times on the telephone before settlement with your client. Yeah, be authentic. You really want to help the person with what they're doing, help them with their needs and furnish a solution and give them support. So don't sell to solve your client's problems. Sell to solve your client's problems. Don't sell to sell. So be authentic. Show you truly care when you're dealing with the clients. So we'll go to our next slide. Yeah, so you don't get paid by the hour. See, I'm not into getting paid by the hour. I demonstrate value with all those different issues that I address during the contract, and then I look at what's happening at the end. What are you paying for the property? What are you paying for agents' fees, stamp duties? I get paid by the value I bring to that hour. So I'm a lump sum or fixed fee. Sometimes I use percentage, but it's something that you've got to, in your mind, is you don't just throw time at something, you throw a solution through experience and the value of the years that you bring to your client. So we'll go to our next section. Yeah, and because we're able to, we've been in this profession maybe for a long time. Now, if I do a job in 30 minutes, because I've spent 10 years learning how to do that in 30 minutes. So, so you owe me for the years, not the minutes. So I think that's a good quote to use there, that we really want to value the amount of experience and knowledge. And that's why we can do the job in the way that we can do so efficiently, because you want clients to pay for that 10 years of learning of how you do that in 30 minutes. So it's all about the value you bring to the table, your awards, your qualifications, your experience, years of seminars, webinars like today, talking to other conveyancers and lawyers, contract variables that other conveyancers and lawyers do not cover, even know about. So stick to the process. Don't be deterred when a client doesn't want to fit in with your client onboarding strategy. So we'll go to our next slide. Yeah. So really, the secret to change, and I'm talking here probably about a process that will change. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. Suggest a change to go about. And what I've noticed is that, particularly in the legal industry, a lot of people will fight against change rather than say, hang on, let's go ahead and trial this for a while and really stick to the process. Yes, we're going to have some clients that won't want to work with us. That's fine. But in the end, if you stick to the process, I know with reading about a lot of coaches in football, they say stick to the process. Even if it's not quite working at the beginning, keep at it. But don't fight against the old, but build on the new. It's a very good quote there from Socrates. So also too, I hear some lawyers and conveyancers say, look, I'm going to retire soon. I don't need to make change. You don't want to have that mindset. You really want to keep growing, have that growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. Really wanting to change, because our lives are always changing, and really wanting people to adapt to a potential new process that I've suggested today to demonstrate value and get rid of people that say, how much do you charge, when they first ring you. Another quote there is initiate a solution. Don't wait for a problem to happen to you. So that's what I say with this Perfect Portal app that can be downloaded, and it updates clients with key messages during the conveyance. So initiate that solution. Don't wait for the problem to happen. Use that technology to back you up on what you're doing, and let the client know, look, this is what's coming up. This is what you need to do. And the client, that will build a good relationship. But don't just leave it to technology either. You've got to also have that human aspect where you get on the phone and touch base, keep in touch, and ask them how their day is. I find that's really worked really well for me. And that other quote there is that in reality, life is only so long, and you want to make the most of what you've got. It's only 4,000 weeks. Remember that. I think that's an important point to as a motivation to want to make change and improve what we're doing, because at this point in time, human life is 4,000 weeks, maybe more, maybe less in some other cases. So we might have a look at our next slide. So we're talking a lot here. You're demonstrating value, how to go about it, what to include, how to change how you charge, how to pick and choose your clients. As that entrepreneur lifestyle owner says there, once you change your mindset, once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with it. So what I've tried to do here is to outline a process, a new way of client onboarding that I think you will attract much better clients, create an income stream for your firm, differentiate you, and you enjoy your firm and your practice a lot better. So your practice is something that you're trying to improve all the time. That's what a practice is, a conveyancing practice. So you're trying to improve what you're doing. So I trust you can take on some of these suggestions that I've mentioned today. And if you're willing to stick to the process, I'm sure it will work out for you. We might go to our next slide. Now, I've prepared a book there, which covers the whole ambit. It's how to improve your conveyancing practice, a step-by-step guide to operating a successful conveyancing practice. So I talk there as those different steps there: succession planning, virtual office, IT, cybersecurity, pricing, social media, communicating, marketing that works, employee subcontractors, even some conveyancing risks there, smart chain, blockchain, e-conveyancing, to make your practice a lot better. Why not have a look at that website there where you can have a look at more about the book, conveyancers.net.au/guide. It's my second edition, so it's an upgrade from the first one, and it has some really good content to help you to be successful in what you're doing. So I've had some really good reviews, so why not type that in after the webinar, conveyancers.net.au/guide. So we'll go to our next. So I spoke a little bit about technology, how that builds client relationships. So I'm going to have Richard now demonstrate the app from Perfect Portal that you can subscribe to, I believe, monthly. And it then sends out key messages at key stages during the conveyance. It's a really good technology tip to why not have a look, have a demonstration of, understand a bit more by talking to Richard at Perfect Portal. So I'll hand over to Richard.
Thanks, Garth. That was great. So yeah, as Garth said, now what I'm going to do is just skip into a live demo of Perfect Portal, and Perfect Portal is effectively technology designed for to enable you to add value in terms of the service that you offer your clients. It's effectively a communication platform, and the two areas I'm going to hone in on today are how you can get a really nice presented branded quote out to a client in under 2 or 3 minutes, and then how we facilitate the ongoing communication during the matter. So this can be by sending SMSs, but what's becoming increasingly popular is this app that I'm going to show you that we can actually design and have branded in your own logo, and it's a great way of telling your client that you have your own app. They can download it from the Apple Store or Google Play. And it's a good way of them being able to track that things are progressing as you're working in the matter. So I'm going to show you that as well. So let's just jump in to do a quick quote. I'll show you how this works. I know there's a number of people online who are sort of keen to see this demo. Okay, so I've just gone to this pink plus button at the top. At this point, I could have the client on the phone, I guess, or they could have come through the door. Now, you're just asking them the obvious questions that you would ask over the purchase. Let's say it's an established house. So I'm going to pop in the details of the client. Now, in this instance, I'm connected up to Leap, so I can bring across the card. So let's just choose a particular client. Now, if you're not with Leap, that's fine too. Perfect Portal works completely standalone as well. and we just go into the next section. So if you have work referred to you, Perfect Portal actually allows you to choose the referrer that sent you a particular lead, and then it captures it in the dashboard tile you see in the background there. So obviously after maybe a month, you can see who sent you the most work, and then perhaps, you know, take them a bottle of wine or just some sort of thank you, really, to hopefully keep those leads coming through. So I've just got to select a fee scale here. We're going to go onto the final window before we send the quote. So if you know the purchase price, we can pop that in. We're going to pop the address in. A national search of all the addresses, so we're just going to put in this random one. These questions actually help us determine the stamp duty. And we're also integrated with InfoTrack. So if you've got certain searches that you want to pull across for a particular council, you can select them within the InfoTrack system, and they will populate here within disbursements. So this is the layout of the costs just before I send it as an email, really, and I'll show you how that's presented in a second. As you can see, I've got this particular quote laid out with a full breakdown of the different fees. Point being, really, is you can choose which of these fees you want to display. So we've got some clients who all they want to show at this point is just the legal fee, and we've got some who'd like to also include government, and then we've got others who want to have everything. So it gives you the ability to have this template already preset, and you can add in additional fees here. So we've got VOI, but you can also include things like, you know, PEXA fees, etc. Perfect Portal also acts as a CRM system, so you can set yourself reminders. So if you want to send the quote out today, and perhaps on Monday make a follow-up call at a particular time, you can set the system to do that, and Perfect Portal will email you that reminder. But let's go ahead and actually send the quote now. So this is the quote just before we send it out. You can attach additional documents too here to the quote. I'm just going to go ahead and send that through. So point here, we've pretty much got this quote out to a client in 2 or 3 minutes. You can even still be on the phone to them. That's the quote that's just popped into my email here. Let me open up that. Okay. So this is obviously all your own branding, all your own logos will be incorporated into this email. We have a design team that takes care of that for you. As I mentioned, you can attach anything you want to it, but let's have a look at the quote itself. So this front cover, you choose the exact imagery. We will help you with the branding and sort of match the same kind of branding that you already have set up for your firm, incorporate your logos. There's my quote. So I've obviously got that full breakdown there for this example. Disclaimers, just explaining, you know, most of these fees are estimates at this stage, and then we've got the ability to put on your marketing cap and, you know, promote your firm, maybe with some quotes from previous clients. The point being, though, you can put a button in here. You can have the wording however you want. But the client can literally instruct you there and then to proceed with the matter. So from here, you'll get an email back just saying congratulations. In this case, I think it was Aaron Collins has instructed you to work on the matter, and you'll be taken to this final window here. So this next part is where we actually create the matter, and you can add additional contacts. So if there's other people during the matter you feel would be important to communicate to, so obviously the popular choices, the real estate agents, mortgage brokers, but you can add in family members, etc. Depending on your practice management system, we'll push it into there. You can add notes, you can accept the matter. Just wait for that to go through. So the next part I'm going to take you through is what we call the key stages, and Garth referred back to this. So if I just go to the matter here. So let me just enlarge my screen a little bit. So the key stages, you basically define these in terms of the wording. We've got some templates basically set up here that you can add to. But as you're working away on the matter, the idea is when an initial letter has been sent to the client, you're just clicking on that update. You can also choose who from the contact list you're sending these updates to. You can add in things like a date or anything you want, and it will change the wording of that. So in this case, I've got a lot of my key stages set as SMSs. I think, and there's an email update from that first key stage in the bottom right-hand corner. I think the more popular choice, particularly these days for consumers, is to actually receive updates via SMS. So there's a lot of junk emails that go out there. So you're just literally clicking through these key stages, and it will send them, in this case, an SMS and an email. And it'll also drive the app that Garth was talking about. So let me just jump into my iPad, and I'll show you how the app looks. So the app is basically designed for you to tell your clients, we have our own app, and it's a really nice way of keeping you updated as we progress on your matter. So we've made it intentionally quite light-hearted with a purchase in this particular case. But effectively, using those key stages you can see in the background there, a client can track progress as you're working through the matter. They can see what the next step is. We've also included your contact details because, as Garth mentioned, keeping that personal relationship, you still want to be talking to them on the phone. So we've made sure we've also included the details there. What the app does, it actually just stops those annoying phone calls coming through, sort of pestering you in terms of you haven't heard anything for a few days. You can also send them personal notes via the app. Some clients are actually sending things like trust account details this way because it's effectively two-step verification. And you can also refer back to that original quote that you sent them before. Just skipping back to the homepage. So the idea being this branding will be your own firm's logos. You can choose the color schemes, and it becomes your own firm's app. And what a great way of adding an additional level of service, differentiating yourself from your competitors out there, and just standing out from the crowd in terms of what you offer your clients. So finally, I'm just going to skip back to the dashboard of Perfect Portal. We also have a third portal. So just to emphasize this, Perfect Portal is made up of three portals. There's a mothership portal, which is controlled by you. The client portal, which is viewed purely by your client. And we also have one for the referrer, which I'm not going to go into today, but the real estate agent or the mortgage broker can either log into an app or can also log in via a browser and just get a bit of insight in terms of how things are progressing. We've also got a number of other features. I don't have time today to go into huge amounts of detail, but the Marketing Center, for example, allows you to send out specific email campaigns to your referrer network. A great way of actually increasing your presence in the market is to increase the number of leads you receive. So working your relationship, building your network of referrers is a really great way of doing that. As I mentioned before, this dashboard tile gives you a real-time view of how your firm's progressing. And we have other nice little features where you can zoom in on where your work's coming from or where your work's not coming from. So if you do want to target a particular area of, say, mortgage brokers or real estate agents, this allows you to do that as well. So this is really a high-level demonstration of what Perfect Portal does. What I'd encourage you to do is jump onto our website, perfectportal.com.au, have a look at some of the video testimonials we've got up there of some of our existing clients who absolutely now rely on Perfect Portal. And we're more than happy to do a quick online demonstration specific to your practice or your firm. And all our contact details are on the website. So, well, I think we'll finish it up there. I just want to say thanks again to Garth for his insights. Hopefully, I was also able to demonstrate, how using this kind of technology can really raise the value that you give to your clients. So as I said, feel free to jump online, book a demo, or get in contact if you'd like any more details on Perfect Portal. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you again on another webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Garth.
Is there any questions?
Good point, Garth. I'm just having a quick look here. Yeah, so there's a question on pricing. So what we'll do is we'll contact people individually on pricing. So we have separate pricing for the app and and for the subscription to Perfect Portal. And there's a question here, there's a few more which we'll come back to individuals on specifically. So there's one on how long does it take to create the client app. We've got a slight backlog at the moment. It's becoming quite popular, but effectively we'll get an app in the app stores with all your branded logos, etc., within about 2 weeks. So yeah. Fantastic. Anything else for you, Garth? Or?
No, I just encourage all the listeners to get on the phone or an email and contact you there, Richard, and have a look into what you can offer to improve the client experience.
Absolutely. And we will send out a copy of the recording from this webinar. There's one question just come in around that. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it all. We'll get those recordings sent out. We'll get your CPD certificates sent out. But thanks again for joining us. We hope it was useful. Thanks for now.